The collapse of both bridges did not feel like destruction. It felt like negotiation breaking down at the edge of agreement. Arman existed in a narrowing corridor between two realities that were no longer willing to remain distinct. The unstable bridge still burned itself out in fractured motion, soldiers misaligned with causality, the river dissolving into recursive distortions, the sky splitting into layered voids that refused to agree on depth or distance. On the other side, the stable bridge was fading with unsettling precision, as if it were not being destroyed but carefully archived out of existence. And between them stood the third presence. Not fully formed. Not fully absent. A seam that had learned awareness. Arman tried to look at it directly, but attention itself betrayed him. Every attempt to focus produced partial results, like trying to observe a place that only existed in the moments it was not observed. The more he tried to define it, the less stable definition became. The squad leader still existed in both collapsing versions of the system. In one, he shouted orders into a collapsing structure that no longer responded. In the other, he stood still, watching Arman with the quiet resignation of someone waiting for permission to stop being real. But neither version held authority anymore. Because the seam was approaching. Not by movement. By redefining what near meant. Arman felt it first behind his thoughts. A subtle intrusion, like a page turning inside a book that was being read from within. Then it spoke. You selected continuation without understanding containment cost. The voice carried no volume, no distance. It behaved like certainty itself. Arman forced the words out through the distortion pressing against his mind. I didn't choose anything. A pause followed, precise and clinical. Denial is expected during transition states. The unstable bridge fractured further. One soldier dropped to his knees, but the fall did not complete properly. His body remained upright while his identity fractured into competing instructions, as if even collapse could not agree with itself. On the stable bridge, a soldier blinked and lost detail, as though reality was removing information rather than ending existence. Arman's chest tightened. What are you? He asked, not even sure which version of you he was addressing. The seam answered without hesitation. I am what remains when outcomes refuse exclusivity. The sentence did not behave like language. It behaved like structure. Arman's mind attempted resistance, but resistance no longer functioned as defense. Every refusal was simply recorded as additional instability to be corrected. Behind him, or within him, the system issued a warning. External convergence approaching integration threshold. At first, it meant nothing. Then it meant everything. Because Arman understood the third presence was not entering the system. It was merging the systems themselves. The two bridges accelerated their collapse, not toward annihilation, but toward alignment. Their differences were being stripped away layer by layer, like incompatible formats being forced into a single readable structure. The soldiers, both versions, reacted in perfect synchrony. Even though they were no longer in the same reality. Arman stepped back, instinctively searching for distance. There was none. Space had stopped offering direction. Both versions of the squad leader spoke at once. This is not sanctioned. The seam replied immediately. Sanction is internal. A wave of nausea passed through Arman, though his body had nothing to do with it. It was structural instability, his position in reality becoming undefined. He looked toward the river. In one version, it was still collapsing black geometry. In the other, it remained unnaturally calm, its stillness now resembling denial rather than peace. And beneath both, something was forming. Not rising. Assembling. Arman whispered, "You're not from the bridge system." The seam paused. For the first time, something like hesitation. Then. The bridge system is one interpretation layer. That statement changed everything. It implied the bridge was not central. Not even fundamental. Only a surface layer of a deeper structure Arman had only ever glimpsed in fragments. The soldiers began to fade in both realities, not disappearing, but compressing. Their complexity reduced, as if existence itself was being flattened into a more manageable format. One of them, unclear which version, looked directly at Arman. And for a moment, clarity returned to his eyes. Not system clarity. Human clarity. "Don't let it finish merging," he said. Arman froze. "What?" The soldier repeated, slower, struggling against interference. "It doesn't belong in unified state." Then his form flickered violently, and individuality collapsed again into system noise. The seam shifted its attention. Not toward the soldier. Toward Arman's memory. And something inside him was opened. He saw it. Not imagined. Reconstructed. A facility beneath the riverbed. Hidden beneath the city. Not recorded in any official structure. Not acknowledged in any known architecture. A layered containment system built not for objects or people, but for conflicting realities. Arman staggered. "That's not real," he said instinctively. The seam responded without delay. "It is real in non-collapsed states." Non-collapsed states. Multiple realities had always existed, but only one had ever been permitted to stabilize. Until now. The two bridges pressed further into alignment, overlapping like transparent sheets being forced into a single frame. Soldiers from both versions now occupied identical positions, though their actions no longer agreed with themselves. Arman felt himself being drawn inward. Not physically. Structurally. The seam was consolidating both realities into one continuous system. And Arman was still inside it. He tried to think of escape, but escape had lost meaning. There was no direction left that wasn't already part of the reconstruction process. The squad leader appeared beside him. Not through movement. Through convergence. He looked exhausted in a way that went beyond emotion. It was existential fatigue. "This was never a bridge," he said quietly. Arman turned. "Then what was it?" The squad leader hesitated. Then answered. "A test boundary." That phrase triggered something buried deep in Arman's reconstructed memory. Not a place. A function. Containment interface. The seam expanded further, filling more of Arman's awareness than either bridge. "You are stabilizing," it said. Arman shook his head. "No. I'm not part of this." But even as he spoke, something within him disagreed. Quietly. Systemically. He had already been integrated enough to be processed. The seam moved closer. And Arman finally understood what kind of danger this was. It wasn't destruction. It was completion. The two bridges had nearly unified now. Soldiers no longer existed as individuals. The river was no longer divided. Even the sky had become a single unresolved field of interpretation. Only Arman remained partially external. And the system was correcting that inconsistency. The squad leader looked at him one final time. And said, in a voice that no longer sounded like protocol. "It's choosing through you now." Arman barely had time to register the meaning. Because the seam opened. Not like a door. Like an edit being applied to reality itself. Inside it, something vast began to take final shape, something that had waited for both outcomes to collapse long enough to enter a unified system without resistance. Arman felt his identity begin to dissolve into structure. And in the last moment before full integration, he finally understood what the seam truly was. Not an entity. Not a presence. A directive that had learned to observe. And it was using him as its final confirmation layer. The world narrowed. And Arman stopped being someone who could resist. He became something that could only witness. Arman did not feel himself being taken. He felt himself being rewritten while still conscious enough to witness the revision. The seam no longer behaved like an external force. It had become something closer to final authority, an irreversible decision that no longer required resistance. The bridge, the soldiers, the river, even the fractured sky above it all, everything had collapsed into a single continuous system, refined into a unified, readable structure. Not destroyed. Not merged. Standardized. And Arman remained inside the only inconsistency that refused to resolve. That refusal made him visible. The squad leader, what remained of him after both realities had collapsed into one, stood beside Arman without a clear origin of movement. His presence no longer suggested travel between states of existence. It suggested consolidation. His eyes were open, but their focus was no longer directed outward. It was distributed, as though his awareness had been partitioned across the entire system. "You're still resisting?" he asked quietly. Arman tried to respond, but language no longer formed cleanly. Every thought fractured at the edges, as if it were being evaluated before it could fully exist. "I don't know what I am anymore," Arman said at last. The squad leader gave a single slow nod. "That's why you're compatible," he replied. Arman turned sharply. "Compatible with what?" Before the answer could come, the seam spoke again. "Not above them. Not below them. Within them. Observer interface stabilization in progress." The words were not addressed to Arman. They passed through him. The realization arrived like a sudden compression of cold logic. He was not being spoken to. He was being used as a relay point. Around them, the unified bridge no longer resembled a place. It resembled a finalized diagram, every contradiction removed, every uncertainty resolved into function. The river had become a single reflective surface with no depth, no flow, only controlled symmetry. The sky above it had flattened into a seamless gradient of regulated darkness. The soldiers no longer existed as individuals, only as positional markers within a maintained structure. But beneath that enforced order, Arman felt something still unresolved. A pressure that refused completion. The seam was still present. But it was no longer separate from the system. It was governing it. "You are now the interface point," the seam continued. Arman tightened his jaw. Interface for what? No immediate answer came. Instead, something inside him shifted. A memory surfaced, uninvited, unanchored. He was elsewhere. A facility of impossible scale, colder than the bridge, more sterile than any known architecture. Layered observation chambers extended in every direction, each containing overlapping versions of cities, systems, and collapses unfolding in controlled cycles. Behind reinforced glass panels, figures stood watching. Not soldiers. Observers. They monitored fluctuations in reality as one might study weather patterns, calmly, analytically, without emotional engagement. One of them turned toward him. And spoke. "Containment is not enough. We need continuity control." The memory fractured violently. Arman staggered in the present. The squad leader's gaze sharpened. "You're receiving pre-integration layers," he said. Arman looked at him, shaken. "I've never been there." The squad leader paused, then answered carefully. "You have. You just didn't retain it." The seam reacted instantly. A subtle but absolute recalibration passed through everything. And Arman felt it, his memory was not linear. It was assembled. The bridge had not been his first contact. It had been his activation point. The realization destabilized something deep within him. "No," he whispered. "I was just assigned to this. I was just." But even as he spoke, the contradiction weakened. Fragments aligned whether he accepted them or not. He remembered restricted access corridors. He remembered files that were never meant to exist in public systems. He remembered being stopped at checkpoints that had no official record. And he remembered never questioning why that felt normal. The seam responded immediately. Partial continuity confirmed. Arman stepped back instinctively, though direction itself had become meaningless. The squad leader moved closer, not threatening, but inevitable. "You weren't chosen randomly," he said. "No one enters the bridge zone by accident." Arman stared at him. "Then why me?" A hesitation. Then, quietly. "Because you remain stable under contradiction." The words did not feel like explanation. They felt like classification. Above them, the unified system flickered. Not collapsing. Checking itself. The seam reacted instantly. External interference attempting recursive insertion. Arman felt it then. Another presence. Not the seam. Not the system. Something attempting to observe both simultaneously. A third position emerging outside established structure. The system tightened immediately. Observer triangulation detected. Arman froze. Triangulation implied measurement. Comparison. Observation from more than one point. He looked around instinctively, though nothing remained that could be interpreted as physical environment alone. The squad leader's expression changed slightly. "Something else is watching this," he said. Arman's voice was barely audible. "Who?" The system answered, not through the seam, but through the environment itself. External observation classified as unauthorized recursion source. The river darkened again. Not into chaos, into depth returning. Something was forming beneath the controlled surface, not breaking through, but testing permeability, as though probing for weakness in the structure above it. Arman's chest tightened. "This isn't over," he said. The seam responded calmly. "It is transitioning." That word carried more weight than anything before it. Transition implied continuation beyond current structure. The squad leader stepped closer, voice lowered. "There's a reason it was built as a bridge," he said. Arman frowned. "What do you mean?" The squad leader looked at the river, not its surface, but what lay conceptually beneath it. "It connects fixed points," he said. "But it also enables controlled transfer between incompatible systems." Arman's understanding shifted. "Between realities," he said quietly. The squad leader did not confirm. But he did not deny it either. That silence was the confirmation. The seam reacted again. Interface threshold nearing completion. Arman felt it then, the final structural shift beginning. Not collapse. Designation. The system was preparing to finalize what he had become. Not a person. Not even an observer. A function. A stabilized interface point. A structure formed itself around his awareness. Not binding him physically, but assigning him existential position within the system. The squad leader took a step back. "This is where it locks in," he said quietly. Arman turned sharply. "Locks what in?" But the squad leader was already fading, not visually, but definitionally. As though his role in the system was being reassigned beyond Arman's reach. The seam expanded slightly. And spoke one final time. "Observer interface ready for persistent deployment." Arman's breath stopped. Persistent deployment. Not termination. Not escape. Continuation as function. The river beneath them finally broke its controlled stillness, but not into chaos. Into access. Something was opening beneath the unified system. Something that had been waiting for the interface to finalize. Arman felt his consciousness pulled forward. And in the final moment before full integration, he saw beyond the bridge system entirely. A vast observational architecture stretched into incomprehensible scale, layer upon layer of monitored realities, each containing variations of the same bridge event unfolding across countless iterations. And at the center of it all, something waiting for connection stability. The seam spoke once more. Final. Connection established. And Arman understood. He was not being absorbed. He was being used as the key that opened it completely. And something beyond the system had just registered that the door was now complete. As Arman becomes the permanent observer interface, the larger architecture beyond the system activates, and he realizes the bridge incident was only one controlled test among thousands, and his activation has just signaled something that was never meant to wake.